The pharmaceutical industry is not particularly known to have the best image, with movies like Dopesick, Painkillers, or The Pharmacist all portraying Big Pharma as an evil money-making machine that prioritizes profits over patients' lives. While Hollywood certainly has taken inspiration from real-life events for these movies, such flagrant scandals are very rare, considering the number of new beneficial medicines that get approved each year. A lot of these beneficial medicines are developed thanks to the work pharma companies do with specialized consultancies that support big pharma and small biotech companies alike at every step of the drug development process and beyond. In this video, I'm going to shed some light on this niche industry, giving you a full beginner's guide to the pharma consulting industry. The topics I will cover in this video include an overview of the big pharma consulting firms, what you can expect to earn working for these companies, an illustrative example of what typical career progression looks like, what you do as a pharma consultant and who you are working with, how much you need to travel, helping you figure out if pharma consulting is for you, and lastly, I'll explain how you can get into pharma consulting. As with all of my videos, I've added time codes to the video description to help you navigate to any section of the video that is most relevant to you. With that out of the way, let's get going. Most rankings you can find online on the top consulting firms usually start with the top 3 and the big 4. The top 3 include McKinsey, BCG or Bain, whereas the big 4 include Deloitte, PwC, KPMG and Ernst & Young. While these consultancies do work with clients from the pharmaceutical industry, they're not the type of vendor that gets hired to do the more science-focused projects. Instead, pharma companies will hire so-called contract research organizations, or CROs for short, to outsource some of their business-critical projects from preclinical research all the way to commercialization of their new assets. The big CROs you should know about are companies like LabCorp, formerly known as Covance, IQVIA, Syneos Health, Icon, PPD, Parexel and MedPace, and they're complemented by a wide range of mid-sized and smaller boutique pharma consultancies that offer highly specialized services. When doing salary comparisons for pharma consultancies, we need to consider that such estimates will always depend on various factors, such as country of employment, lack of comparability between roles, absence of any accurate salary data or any uncaptured employment benefits and so forth. To still give you a rough idea of what you might earn working as a pharma consultant, I've extracted 2020 data from the H1B salary database and created a table showing the median salary in US dollars across regions and roles for the top 3 and the big 4 consultancies and also for the top 10 CROs. You can see that the number of records informing these salary estimates on the right is very low for some of these companies, so take these results with a grain of salt. Looking at the averages, we can see that salary among the top 3 and big 4 is higher than the average salary across the top 10 CROs. So if all you're interested in is maximizing your income, then you're better off working for McKinsey, BCG or Bain as opposed to working for one of the big CROs. Remember, the salary estimates we've just looked at were presented as the median across regions and roles. So there will obviously be variations in salary for someone who's worked in the industry for several years and someone who's just getting into pharma consulting. Let's assume you're just getting into pharma consulting and you want to better understand what typical career progression might look like. While job titles vary from firm to firm, they all more or less follow the same structure for career progression, whereby entry-level roles are labeled as either associate or analyst positions. As an analyst, your main tasks include analyzing data and creating PowerPoint slides. Then, after approximately 2 years as an analyst, you'll get promoted to a consultant, but you're more or less still doing the same thing for work. though now you're more likely to present your results directly to the client. After another 2 years, you'll get promoted to a senior consultant, which is where you start leading work streams and manage 1 or 2 analysts that are in your team. From here, you can get promoted to either a principal or engagement manager role, which means that you're now responsible for leading several projects and you also have a business target. Having a business target means that you have a revenue target, which is aimed at incentivizing you to sell more projects and generate more business that way. The only role that's left for you to take after becoming a principal are director or partner roles that can have varying levels of seniority. As a director or partner of a pharma consulting firm, you're still responsible for a sales target, only your sales target will now be much bigger. On top of that, the most senior partners will define the firm's overall strategy. A great way of thinking about career progression in pharma consulting is to visualize it as a pyramid, whereby the junior analysts and associates represent the bottom of the pyramid, where most of the work gets done. If you climb up the pyramid, the fewer the people are involved with the actual work and the more their focus shifts towards new business generation. Another way of visualizing career progression in pharma consulting is to think about the multiple career pathways you can take, whereby you can always pivot direction. Thereby, pharma consultants will progress within the spectrum of 2 domains, namely leadership and expertise. For example, you might start pharma consulting by becoming an expert in a certain area, but then after a few years you decide you want to take over more managerial responsibilities and you pivot towards that leadership domain. There is this meme going around on the internet that nobody actually knows what it is that consultants do, even the consultants themselves. When asked what they do for work, consultants will often give generic answers like helping our clients solve their problems. While answers like these are technically not wrong, it also doesn't bring you any closer to understanding what consultants actually do for work. What pharma consultants actually do for work thereby depends on 2 aspects. The first aspect is the area in which they specialize in, or the context of their work. And the second aspect is the type of deliverable they're working on. In other words, the output of their work. There are plenty of areas to specialize in when it comes to pharma consulting, and I won't be able to cover all of them here. The main areas of specialization usually follow the 7 steps it takes to bring a new drug to the market, which I've covered in my video, which you can find here. Let me talk you through some of these areas of specialization. For example, pharma consultants working in research and development will help design, manage and analyze clinical trials, or alternatively, pharma consultants specializing in regulatory affairs will produce documents for new drugs to submit to regulators like the EMA, FDA or other local authorities. Pharma consultants with a focus on market access and HEOR will navigate local health technology assessment procedures, build cost-effectiveness models, and ultimately set the price for new drugs. Pharma consultants who work together with commercial teams will lead projects covering sales, marketing, and market research activities. On top of that, there are other areas of specialization for pharma consultants, such as patient engagement and advocacy, public and government affairs, as well as medical affairs or supply chain optimization. To name a few more areas, pharma consultants may also specialize in real-world evidence generation, drug law and legal compliance, or biostatistics. As you can see, there are so many options to specialize in that will set the context of the day-to-day work that pharma consultants do. Now that we know the context of the work pharma consultants do, let's dive into the types of outputs of their work. Broadly speaking, there are 6 types of deliverables pharma consultants work on. The first type we all know about, which is putting together good old PowerPoint slides, for example, to visualize the primary outcomes of a key clinical trial or to assess different pricing scenarios for a new drug. Another typical output in pharma consulting is writing protocols and reports in Word. such as systematic literature review protocols or clinical study reports, which are also called CSRs. To generate these CSRs, statistical analysis is required, which is typically done in software like SAS or Python. Furthermore, pharma consultants will develop various types of models, such as cost effectiveness models, budget impact models, or cost consequence models, whereby they use software like Excel, Triage, or less frequently programming solutions like R. Besides that, some pharma consultants will lead face-to-face work, and this face-to-face work can either be an advisory board or workshop with key opinion leaders, or on-site work where consultants are hired out to pharma companies, for example, to leverage them as external sales force to go out and speak to budget holders in the field. The last type of output pharma consultants produce I want to cover is publication in scientific journals. At the end of a project, it is very common that results will get published in a peer-reviewed journal, which is why medical writing is such an important skill for pharma consultants to have. If you are interested in medical writing, you should check out my video on my 6 tips and tricks that will help you become a better medical writer, which you can find here. In terms of people that you're working with internally, you can expect to work among a small team of consultants, usually not more than 2 or 3 per project. Your average colleague tends to be ambitious, willing to learn, and young, given that people often join right after university, and many of them will exit consulting after they've gained the valuable experience in the industry after 3 to, let's say, 5 years. This is also why consulting in general, and pharma consulting is no exception here, has a very high attrition rate. This high attrition rate causes many consultants to make the shift to work for a pharmaceutical company directly, aiming to find a better work-life balance. Externally, pharma consultants will usually have one key client contact, but the number of people that get involved from the client side might vary from company to company. Usually though, client counterparts are individuals who've worked in the industry for longer and are therefore more experienced. When we talk about consulting, we also need to talk about business travel. In general management and strategy consulting, there is this perception that consultants travel all the time to physically attend a client site. Now, I can't speak for consulting in general, but I can attest from personal experience that working in pharma consulting, you don't have to travel as much. And many pharma consulting roles you can get away with not traveling at all. If you're mostly working on a national level, you might go out and see a client for an in-person kickoff meeting. But if you're working on a global project instead, it has become harder and harder to justify the inherent cost and inefficiencies that come with long-distance travel. As a result of the recent pandemic, working from home has also become more prevalent, which is why most consultancies offer flexibility for their employees to work from home. Even though people are often split whether working from home has positive or negative effects on employee performance, recent evidence seems to suggest that most studies assessing this question report a positive impact. As one study points out, such positive impact manifests in improved work satisfaction and less employee turnover, but it also comes at the cost of a lower promotion rate conditional on employee performance. What do you think about working from home? Do you think it affects your likelihood of getting a promotion? Let me know in the comments down below. If you are considering a career in pharma consulting, you might wonder whether it's the right choice for you. To help you make that choice, I've put together a list of pros and cons about pharma consulting. Starting off with the pros, a significant benefit of working in pharma consulting is that you work on diverse projects. For example, you are more likely to be exposed to multiple disease areas and products, which all come with their own challenges. Working on such diverse projects will also allow you to gain job experience fast, as you're often forced to apply various technical skills to overcome the challenges you're facing in your projects. As you're more likely to gain job experience quickly, you're also becoming more attractive to other employers both for competing consultancies and for pharmaceutical companies alike. That way, you're increasing your value on the job market, and as such, you'll receive new job opportunities faster and more often. Lastly, you'll benefit from flexible working hours. Even though consulting can be very demanding at times, most projects usually go through peaks and troughs, meaning that you can recharge during the time where your projects aren't as busy. Moving on to the cons, the high workload is certainly a downside. While most consultancies will give you flexibility in terms of when you get your work done, you should still expect a higher workload compared to other industries. Even though the number of hours consultants work per week is probably still over-exaggerated on the internet, and 100-hour working weeks are most definitely not the norm, working 50 to 60 hours per week is still very realistic. Apart from the high workload, you might also feel a lack of ownership working in pharma consulting. While delivery and development of the actual project materials lies with the consultancy, the ownership of these materials still resides with the pharma company itself. If you're working in market access, for example, you might write an HTA dossier and you do all the research on the disease, clinical studies, and cost effectiveness yourself. But you're still not the one who actually submits those materials to the HTA body and who needs to defend those materials in front of an assessment committee. In pharma consulting, you're always just advising your clients, and ultimately you don't get to make any actual decisions, which might feel frustrating to some people over time. The last point I want to mention as a downside of being a pharma consultant is probably the most important one. That downside is that as a pharma consultant, you're always a service provider, so you'll inevitably work together with various types of clients. Most of the time, you can't choose which clients you get to work with, and while most clients are absolutely delightful to work with, there still is a small percentage of clients that can make your work very difficult. Now, while there are tools you can use to manage those difficult clients, getting a bad client can severely affect how much you enjoy doing your work. Before I close out the video, I wanted to give you a brief overview of what you need to do if you want to get into pharma consulting. Having a bachelor's degree is considered a minimum in most cases, but you've got better chances with an advanced degree, preferably a master's degree in a related scientific field. Even advanced scientific degrees like PhDs are relatively common, but unless you really want to do the PhD, you'll benefit more from getting into consulting earlier rather than spending 3 to 5 years writing your PhD thesis. The great thing about consulting is that you can get in with various scientific backgrounds, such as a degree in health economics, chemistry, medicine, microbiology, statistics, or maths, to just only name a few. If you're coming straight from university, getting an internship with one of the big name CROs I've mentioned earlier in this video is probably the way to go. These internships are decently paid and offer you a good chance of getting a full-time position after you've completed your internship. If you're considering joining at a later stage in your career, valuable practical experience for pharma consultants is any position that is in some shape or form connected to the wider healthcare system. For example, that could be hospital roles like being a nurse, pharmacist, or physician, roles with a regulatory or HTA body, or work for insurance companies and other local payers. Regardless of your academical and practical experience, you can always work on key skills that are valuable for pharma consultancies. Such key skills include data analysis in software like SAS, R, or Python, economic modeling in Microsoft Excel, and general communication and presentation skills. Having a mixture of these academic qualifications, practical experiences, and key skills will ultimately land you an interview with a pharma consultancy. I won't cover the interview process here, as there's already tons of videos available that you can find online that will teach you about how you can approach these case studies and for me problems. both of which you are likely to encounter in a consulting interview. I'm keen to hear if you're considering a career in pharma consulting, given everything you've heard today. Let me know down in the comments. If you're interested in videos like this one, subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. I'll post videos on pharma consulting, health economics, and industry insights, summarizing what I've learned over many years of working in this highly interesting niche industry. If that's what you're looking for here on YouTube, then you came to the right place, and I'll see you in the next video.